Okay, so in this video, we're going to go over a bunch of different features built inside of Facebook that you're going to use quite a bit during your work with 25th West and making sure that everything works appropriately. So first and foremost, this is your business manager. When you jump on to Facebook for the first time, and you go to business.facebook.com, this is what you're going to see. You can have ad accounts, you can have pages and all that. Unless there is a reason to go into one of these other tabs over here, I always, before I start work, will always go to Power Editor. This is where you're going to have the majority of your work is going to happen. And this is where we definitely want to make sure that we are spending the majority of our time is here inside of Power Editor. Now we will be going to other tabs and stuff and we'll be talking about those, but first let's go through the different features here inside of Power Editor and how everything is kind of laid out. So first and foremost, we have the account overview, which will give you just a brief overview of how things are going on the account. It's really good, especially if you're trying to see if there's anything that needs fixing or has potential problems. You can kind of take a look at how things are performing overall on the account. So first and foremost, you can take a look at how the reach is, where the spending is happening the most, and for age and gender. We can also break it down specifically to a particular area. We can also make sure that our, we can take a look at the region that we're targeting. In this case, this is kind of the area that we're at, which is right. I mean, they're showing you the DMA region as opposed to the actual radius that we're going after. We could take a look and we could see, okay, how are things going, hour of day, where's the most reach happening, when is the least amount of reach happening, and we can see, just right here. So we could even adjust some of our time schedules here that, as we get closer into the night, we definitely have more reach going. We can also kind of take a look at clicks, and we can say, okay, early in the morning, there's definitely a lot of clicks that happen, and then, fewer clicks in the afternoon, and then going back to more clicks at the evening. So again, that just kind of gives us an idea if we're going to do any kind of optimizations. Some things that we can take a look at when we kind of go and we look at the account overview. It also has here this creative overview, so you can kind of see how your ads are doing. You can use creatives across multiple campaigns, so it'll tell you, hey, this is used in how many different ads. So you can kind of just take a quick look at how things are going creatively. I'm gonna go ahead and clear out all these filters here real quick that Facebook put in. So then of course we have the campaign tab. This will show you all the different campaigns that are currently running. Our naming culture here at 25th West, campaigns are actually objectives, and the reason why is because Facebook does all of its algorithm, all of its thinking down on the ad set level. So really, you could think of the campaigns tab as really the objective tab and the ad set tab as the campaign tab. And so that's one of the, for me, it's just one of the easy ways to kind of remember this is objective, this is campaigns. But you'll find all of the objectives that we're looking for here in the campaigns tab. So you'll see the campaign name is always going to be named the account, and then the type of campaign that you're running. So then we have inside here, so let's go ahead and let's open up a campaign just to go over a couple more details. You have the campaign name here. If you wanted to use dynamic naming, you go ahead and you can punch it in here and it'll automatically name your campaigns for you. Don't really use it, so don't have to worry about that. Right here you have your objective. This is locked. After you have published a campaign, you're not allowed to change your objective. The buying type is always going to be an auction. We're not privy to the set payments that you can do with bigger accounts and stuff. So like, when Target advertises, they don't do auction. They just say, hey, Facebook, here's $100 grand, and they don't have to fight in an auction like the rest of us do. The campaign spending limit, you are allowed to set this. So this is especially important for accounts that may be running amok a little bit, and we might be getting into trouble with some campaign spending. So you can always set a dollar limit. So no matter what happens, you can set this dollar limit, and Facebook will not, once that limit is happens, it's going to turn off the campaign. So it's very helpful in that regard if you're trying to prevent, especially if you've got a tight budget. So if we're not operating inside our normal limitations that we're accustomed to, so like let's say a client comes to us and they can only do $300, setting a campaign spending limit is really good, because then you locked the campaign. It's not going to exceed that limit, and it's really, really helpful to do that. Inside the campaign tool here, we've got the create the campaign button. We've got two options here. So first and foremost, when you click that, it's gonna automatically load this window right here. It might give you some tips up top, and you don't have to pay attention to those. You give the campaign name. Like I said, here's your buying type. You've got auction, and then you've also got reach and frequency. So we'll go into a little bit more detail into what reach and frequency is here, and maybe a little bit later. Then we've got our different awareness that we can do. We can do brand, this is for reach and frequency. For auction, we've got all the different types that we could do, from conversion to consideration ones like traffic and video views and lead generation, and then awareness, so reach and brand awareness. We then create an ad set right here, and then create a new ad name. Now we can skip creating an ad set. We can skip creating an ad if we need to. We just select those options there. And so if you are just planning on creating a campaign and the ad set, and you're going to get around to the ad later, you can always create all those and have at least that shell created, and then you can come back and add into it later. And I'll show you how to work with this after, when you're kind of working with it after the fact. Now inside reach and frequency, so actually the learn more that they give you right here, which I'm having a problem getting to, is pretty good. So, but basically, this is especially important if we're going to be doing anything in regards to branding campaigns. So this is where, again, kind of like how the big boys can do it, and it allows us to pay Facebook a flat rate. We're basically saying, hey, this is how much I'm going to pay you. I'm not fighting people for it. This is how much I'm going to pay you. Now, you do lose out on the Facebook algorithm, right? So basically, with the exception here of conversion and reach, the rest of these aren't going to use the Facebook algorithm. It's just going to put it out there. So there are times and places when you would want to run the reach and frequency, and then there are times and places when you want to go for auction. Now, auction, it allows you to, again, it kind of will allow you to do things. One has more campaign objectives. Let's start off with that. But it also gives you the potential of getting things at a lower price, right? So when you tell Facebook with reach and frequency, this is how much I'm going to pay, you're going to tell Facebook, I'm going to pay you $10 per 1,000 impressions, and I want people to see it 3 times, right? That's what you're going to tell Facebook. When you do that, that's your locked-in price. So even if Facebook can get it to you cheaper, it's not going to, because you paid Facebook for this type of a result. That's what you're going to get. With an auction, you have the potential of saving money, because through the bidding, you might be able to get things done cheaper. So there's that, just to kind of keep in mind. When everything's all done here, and I'm actually gonna talk specifically more about reach and frequency in another video, so you can kind of understand a little bit more about that. When you're all done with that, you click the Save Draft button, and you're good to go. And it's going to create. So actually, we'll go ahead and we'll just do test, because we can always just delete this, and test, and then we'll click Save to Draft. So, and that's going to now build the campaign, the ad set, and the ad that we all happen to change into the word test. Now, when you initially create a campaign in Power Editor, nothing's published yet. That's why we use Power Editor, because we can make adjustments and changes all the way up until the point when we click Review Draft Items. So we can change the objective if we change our mind. You cannot change the buying type, and of course you can always set a campaign spending limit. All right, so now let's go ahead and let's go into, actually I take that back. There's a few more buttons now. So here we can also give you the option to create an ad set or create an ad inside of a campaign. So if you've got a campaign checked, you can then say, hey, I want to create an ad inside of that campaign, and it will load everything you need in order to create an ad inside that campaign. Duplicate you've got right here. So if you click the duplicate window, it's going to ask you how many copies you want to make, or you can go here with quick duplicate and it's just going to quickly make one duplicate of the one that you have selected. Edit will pull up this window here. Of course, the other way you can do it is you can click the edit button there, or by having it checked and you can click the edit button there. You also can go right here and you can do turn off, edit name, find and replace. Find and replace is very helpful if you're wanting to rename things or if you're wanting to find things, especially in big campaigns. You can use the find and replace method here if you're wanting to rename things. Revert will undo basically what you did. In this case, if I click revert, it would delete the whole campaign. Delete, create and edit in a spreadsheet. So this is if you've got a ton of accounts, you don't really have to worry about this button here. But if you've got a ton of accounts, you can always download what you've got in a spreadsheet. You can build everything in a spreadsheet and then upload it, and then it'll be built that way. Campaign tags, so you can tag things. There's agencies and companies that use tags. I don't use tags primarily because we don't have massive campaigns, right? There's some agencies that they're going to put all of their clients inside of one ads manager, right? So they have to tag things so that way they can keep track of what's going on against different accounts and whatnot. And then there's other companies that, they're just big. I mean, if you've got Coke and whatnot and they're running their Facebook campaigns, they're going to have tons of stuff running, and so they're going to tag things. Our accounts, we don't really have that many campaigns, so we don't have to worry about tagging things so much. The last thing is rules. You are able to create rules that can help automate some processes, especially if you're going to be turning campaigns on and off automatically, or ads and things like that. Rules really come in handy if you're going to be running a ton of ads, and you can set up rules that if the ad does not have a certain click-through rate after a certain number of days, automatically turn it off. Things like that. If it doesn't have a certain number of leads or whatever your metric is that you're looking for, go ahead and just kill it. So rules come into play more so on the ads level than on the ad set or the campaign level, primarily because the way we do campaigns, where a campaign is an objective and an ad is a campaign, rules won't really apply too much for us up on these upper levels. But on the ads, we'll definitely use rules in order to help automate some processes, so that way the computer is doing some of the thinking for us, and we don't have to be buried inside these campaigns all the time. So now let's go ahead and let's go into ad sets. So inside ad sets, again, we'll go through a couple of quick little things here. We have where we can create an ad set. Similar process here. We just give it an ad set name. Duplicate. Okay, again, it's going to ask you to do inside the original campaign an existing campaign. So if you want to duplicate it but put it inside of another campaign, or if you're going to create a new campaign, and then how many copies do you want to make? Or we could just do a quick duplicate where it's going to just duplicate inside the originating campaign. And then there's another one that we can go ahead and look at here, where we can then split audiences. So this is where we could take the audience and we can add a new ad set here. We can say, hey, I want to split between male and female, or I want to change the age range. And so now it's going to split those audiences so we can kind of compare and contrast against and see which one is going to perform better. Now, we are never going to use split audiences, primarily because the Facebook algorithm is, I take that back. We would split audiences if we're doing anything that doesn't require the Facebook algorithm. I recently learned that traffic campaigns do not use the Facebook algorithm. So if we're doing anything inside traffic, if we're going to do anything inside of, let me show you these different ones. We're going to do anything inside of traffic, if we're going to do any side of like post engagement, inside of messages, things like that, that doesn't utilize the Facebook algorithm. Ones that do are reach and conversions. Those are very, very heavy on using the Facebook algorithm. So those we're never going to split. But if we're doing traffic, anything like that, we're going to definitely be splitting our ad sets because it doesn't matter, right? So really, the Facebook algorithm isn't going to do some thinking for us. It's going to come in and it's going to say, okay, hey, here's, it's going to basically take all of the cues from us, right? And we're going to say, hey, look, the older generation is not converting, the younger generation is, right? So this is how we want to do it. Kind of a deal. So there is a time and a place for doing that, and so yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll talk more about that and kind of how that all comes into play here. So, but those will basically be the only times you'll ever do the split audience. Edit, same thing. Turn off, edit budget, edit name, find and replace, delete, save the audience. You don't really have to use that one. Create, edit in a spreadsheet, and create rule. Again, another one that you don't really have to use. Now, inside of the ad sets we have, in this case, since we have a conversion campaign, you're going to have your event that you're going to want to go for. And you'll usually do lead or purchase, some sort of event that you want it to actually go for. Then what we have here is your budget. Lifetime budgets are better. One, because we're able to better control our costs. We're able to have better prediction over what our costs are going to be like. And then two, we're able to do ad scheduling, which is really important for local businesses. We want to run our ads during times when things are actually working. And we also want to run our ads during times when our clients can actually respond, right? So we're not going to run ads, if they're not open on the weekends, we're not going to run the ads, after they're closed on Friday or Saturday or Sunday, because it's, say somebody fills out the form at 6 p.m. on Friday, they're not going to hear to them all the way till Monday. So we don't want to do that. We want to give our clients the best opportunity to close their leads. So we want to only run the ads on basically the days that they're open, all the way up until when they hit their close gap, basically. Then right here we have where we can build audiences. We're going to use custom audiences most of the time, and I'm going to show you how to make custom audiences. You can make them inside of your ad set, or you can create them inside of the audience tab, which I will show you in just a second. So in order to create a custom audience, you go ahead and click here, click new, and you can create a custom audience. It's going to pull up this window right here, where you can do either a customer file. So if you've got a CSV of everyone's emails, you can upload that. You can do website traffic, so people who have come to the website. And you can, build specific things, all website visitors, people who visit specific pages, how long were they on, did they see any of these event codes? You can kind of get specific. You can also go back to 90 days if you want to. Inside app activity, we'll never use because we don't have anybody that uses apps. Offline activity, we don't have to worry about that as well. And then engagement, we could do people who watch videos, so they could watch 3 seconds, 10 seconds, 25%, 50, 75, or 95% of a video. You can go all the way back to a year on that. Lead forms, so anyone who opened the form, anybody who didn't submit the form, or anybody who opened and submitted the form, so you can get kind of specific with your lead forms as well. Full screen experiences, so this is people like, these are your canvases, so anybody who opened the canvas, anybody who clicked a link in a canvas. Facebook page, so you could do anyone who's engaged with the page. This is going to have your most broad audience set, because this is anybody that's done anything with your page. They've clicked a link, they've liked the page, they've stopped long enough on a post. So anybody that has quote unquote engaged with your page. So this will give you the biggest audience size. Then you have anyone who visited your page, anyone who engaged with a post or ad. People who clicked on any call to action button, people who sent you a message, or people who saved your page or any post. So, you can then break it down into different subsets, especially if you've got a page with a lot of action on it. You can then kind of break it down into these smaller subsets. Then you can also go here into the Instagram business profile. So if you've got where a page is connected to an Instagram account, which we don't really have too many, you can also do kind of similar things as with Instagram as well. And then if there any kind of events, people who've interacted with any kind of event, you can go ahead and create a custom audience from that. When you're all done, you would just name the audience and click Create Audience, and it would come up in here. You can also exclude audiences. So if you've got a lookalike audience, that's broad, but you want to exclude people who may have converted already, right? So we can always So like, let's just say we're going to exclude then people. So we've got this really broad lookalike audience, but we don't want people to see this ad again if they have, if they've seen our lead, right? If they've gotten to the lead pixel in the past 30 days, so these will be people who converted. We don't want to include those people. So then we could create that audience, and those people will be excluded from seeing the ad. Now, we don't ever want to do the exclude or the include more inside your custom audiences. We just want to keep these audiences as general as possible, and then we exclude and include as we need to inside the ad set, okay? So locations, you want to so you got a couple options here for locations. You got everyone in this location, people who live, people who recently came to it, and people who traveled in the location. So again, it kind of just depends on what kind of audience you're going for. Everyone, of course, is the most broad sense, and then the smallest will be people who most recently visited the location. So for us, you can always do things by a location with a radius. So you can do an exact address of a business, or you can go by state. You can go by congressional code. I mean, they've got all kinds of options for you here to be able to target. You can also exclude locations. So let's say we had a clinic here, and we have a clinic that's like right over here, and their circles will overlap. So you can go into that and you can exclude an area. So then that way people don't see that crossover, which is really nice. Age step is pretty straightforward. Gender, language. If we're using a custom audience, we're never going to put anything here inside the detailed targeting. If you aren't going to use a custom audience, your best bet is going to be behaviors first, and you've got a whole laundry list of behaviors you can go through and select from. And then if not, then you're going to want to just type in some interests. So, for instance, chiropractor is an example, and it'll give you can also see when you type something in, it'll give you what it is. This is an interest, this is a job title, and this is an interest. So you can always kind of see what you're doing. This button right here, expand interests when it may increase conversions at a lower cost. You're basically telling Facebook that inside here, if I'm not getting conversions, I give you permission to open up the floodgates and figure out who's going to convert, is what this box does. So if you're doing any kind of detailed targeting, you want to always check this box, because the Facebook algorithm for conversion campaigns is always going to be smarter than you. Connections. So this is if you want to exclude people who like your page. That's the best thing to do with a connection. You can always exclude people who like the page. Again, so then that way, if you're doing any kind of offer that's only applicable to new patients, your current patients won't see the offer, right? So you can always exclude people that like the page and whatnot. Placements, always keep it automatic placements. There's no reason to not keep it on automatic placements. Optimization for actually take that back. There is a time. So if you are going to be running a split campaign that's Instagram only or Facebook only, that's when you're going to want to edit placements, and you can select doing Facebook, Instagram, and kind of going along those routes. So it's really, really, the only time you're gonna do edit placements is if you are planning on advertising specifically on one of these platforms. The other place you can do advertisements for, this is brand new, is Facebook Stories. If you do, or not Facebook, Instagram Stories. If you do Instagram Stories, that is the only place you are allowed to advertise on. So again, that's that example of if you're going to do something there, then that's the only spot that you can do it. There is some media requirements that you have to meet, primarily speaking. It can't just be, just a boring old image, and it has to be a certain size. It's got to be able to fill the screen. So all of our ads will have that ability to be able to do that. And just remember, Instagram Stories, these are people that they're kind of clicking through, and they're saying, hey, I'm catching up with people's life and whatnot. So, you want stuff that deals lifestyles will go inside here, not like conversions, right? You're not going to convert people. you're not going to convert people on an Instagram story. You're going to build awareness, but you're not going to convert people. So just kind of keep that in mind too if you're going to do an Instagram story. Down here we've got conversions. You always want to check this this toggle right here. This will say that we're going to optimize for links until we have enough conversions, so that way Facebook then knows what works and what doesn't. Then we've got a conversion window. You'll always leave this the same. Bid amount, go ahead and keep it automatic, and then when you get charged, all that is the same there. Now inside of ad sets and campaigns, you also have this little performance tab, so you can kind of take a look at how things are going inside there. And then you also have this little clock where you can kind of look at, okay, how, what happened, what's the activity detail, what changes were made, this, that, and the other. So you can kind of keep a look at, keep track of what's going on there. Inside the ad level, you have the create ad, duplicate, edit, all these are kind of your standard things. The only thing that's different is inside duplicate, you can duplicate by images. So if you've selected an ad that is an image ad, you can then select multiple images, right? So you can say, I'm going to do this one and this one and this one and this one, just clicking. And so now it's going to create a different ad for each one of these images. So it allows you to quickly create a bunch of ads all at once with different images, because images account for about 80% of the reason why someone clicks on a Facebook ad. So images are very important. So it's really important to test multiple images. So you build one ad, you've got it all set, you got the copy down, it looks great, and then you can duplicate by images, and you can create a bazillion different images that you can then test across. Inside of the ad, you've got the ad name. It'll tell you the Facebook page, the Instagram account. If there isn't an Instagram account created, it'll tell you to connect your Facebook page, or to use your Facebook page as the Instagram account. That's just kind of a default thing. Inside the creative here, I don't know why it didn't load properly here. Let me just refresh this because this screen didn't load properly. And if not, I can just load it into a... Oh, it's because I told it to do a Facebook story. Here, let me reset the power editor. So that's up here in this little top gear up here. You can reset the power editor, so it's going to clear everything. It's because I made that change to the ad set telling it I wanted to do the story. And so because I didn't build the story the right way, so that's why I was like, hey, what are you doing? Then you got the create ad here. You can do an ad with image. You can do a carousel ad. These have really good click-through rates if you are going to do a carousel ad. And then collection, which is a full screen mobile experience. We don't hardly ever use this one, so don't even probably worry about that. All right, so then when we scroll down, you upload your image or video, depending upon which one it is, right? So you'd select a video or create a slideshow, and then of course you have the image. You can use a different image or video for your Instagram feed. Now, video, especially, you want to create a different one because the aspect ratio is different on Instagram than it is on Facebook. Facebook does this more widescreen. Instagram does more tall. So we definitely want to have, for video, different sizes. And actually, let me show you here real quick kind of what I'm talking about. Let me pull up one that I know has those different sizes in here. So here's a perfect example, right? So we've got Instagram is one size here, and then the Facebook one, where is mobile newsfeed, is a completely different size, right? So that's why we want to run. And if you actually look, let me look here. So if you actually look, they're two different sizes, right? There's two different videos kind of playing inside here. So that way we can take full advantage of the difference in the aspect ratios that the two different platforms have. So if you kind of take a look at those, that's what I'm looking for. Right, so we're able to take advantage of those different aspect ratios. Then we've got the website URL, so the landing page that you're going to put here. Text is this, in this case, for the Instagram feed is down there. What you'll be most used to seeing is this, so you'll see the this will be where the text goes. The headline is this point right here, and then the news feed description is this little line that's right here. I always overfill it, but whatever. Tracking parameters, you'll never probably end up using this, but this is if you're going to add tracking elements to the URL. So this is especially for tracking conversions through Google Analytics. This is where you would put in those URL parameters there. Now here's the other really important piece inside here, and this is the rules, right? So we do have a rule, I believe, set up on this one already. So yeah, so this is, basically once October 31st comes and goes, these ads will get turned off because they're Halloween specific ads, right? So we set up a rule for that for Halloween specific ads. But we can create other types of rules for these ads. So we could load up the ad and we can say, hey, we want you to turn the ads off if the cost per result is greater than X number of dollars in the past 7 days or something. Or we could say if if the frequency is greater than a 6 or something in the last 7 days, or in the last 14 or 30 days, we can say, okay, it needs to just be automatically turned off. You can also do things like if the cost per click is greater than a certain number, kill it, right? Because we want to have those minimum numbers that we're looking at. And you can always come back in and set rules up later. So generally speaking, we want to keep our cost per clicks below, that $3 mark. So if the cost per click is going to be greater than that, we definitely want to kill it. We can also, kind of look at it. The best one to do is going to be your click-through rate. So if the click-through rate is smaller than 1%, then it just needs to be turned off. And if it's smaller than 1% in the last 7 days, maybe something along those lines, then you give the rule a name, and then you click create. And so now what's going to happen is Facebook is going to be scanning, and it's going to say, uh-oh, I just looked over the past 7 days, it's not meeting that minimum KPI, and it's going to turn off that ad. And the reason why we want to do that is so that way we're only running the ads that are going to have the best ability to perform. Because really, this tab right here is where the majority of the magic happens. Setting up your audience is important, don't get me wrong. It's very important, and it's huge in making sure that your ads are getting shown to the right people. So we have to definitely be setting up our ad sets appropriately. But the ads is where the majority of the movement is going to happen, because with ad sets, we don't want to make changes once we set it, right? So the ad sets are super important to get right from the get-go. Right, so that's where you're going to be very meticulous in your ad sets and making sure that those are all set up appropriately. But the ads is where you're going to be making constant changes to, and tweaks and pauses and turn this on and turn this off, because this is where you can make a ton of changes and it won't affect the Facebook algorithm and the targeting. Right, you make any change to an ad set, it basically resets everything that Facebook has learned and it starts all over. Ads, it doesn't reset it, right? So we want to just make sure that that we get the ad set up properly the first time, and then ads is where we do all of the fancy work. So that's where we would be able to create rules. We can also create rules. We could create rules based off of all active ads. So this will be a campaign-wide. Not even a campaign-wide, it's an account-wide rule, so you can set that up, super easy to set up. So whenever you've got an account, you just say, hey, all active ads, turn them off when the click-through rate does not match that minimum number, and then boom, it's going to go through every 7 days or every 3 days, whatever time range you're going to look at. I prefer 7 days, and it's just going to start killing ads, and then it'll email you to let, or whoever's going to be the subscriber, so it could be whoever's ad account this is, it'll email you saying, hey, I just turned these off. So that will then give you a to-do list to go in and see, okay, how is this performing, kind of a deal. So rules are very, very, very helpful in that regard, in making sure that your ads are meeting those minimum KPIs and that you're not killing people with high frequency, low click-through rates, that kind of stuff. You can quickly kill ads that aren't performing the way that they need to be performing. So that's just a quick here rundown of Power Editor. Once you make any kind of changes, you would click here to review your draft items, and then it'll pull up kind of what it's going to change, and you click confirm, and it's going to publish those out. Then we've got a couple of other tools that you're going to probably use. So the biggest two are going to be pixels and audiences and images. These will be, biggest three. So pixels, this is where the Facebook pixel is. So if you're going to be, if you need to check any kind of pixel data, this is where you would go. Also, if you're going to be setting up the pixel inside the Tag Manager, you would use the integration, Google Tag Manager, quick install, and then of course the account, and then you would, build out the Tag Manager. In this case, we'll just say it's Align Chiropractic. This is just for test purposes. You would be able to add the tags in that you want. Triggers, add tag, next, and then publish, and then it'll actually add the tag to the Google or the Facebook pixel to the tag. So that's all really, really important and really good. This will also give you kind of if you wanted to take a look at how things are running, or if you need to share the pixel with somebody, you can by clicking this little share button here and just following the on-screen prompts. Then inside the asset library for audiences, so here's where you would actually be able to, so that screen that we showed you inside the ad set where you'll be able to quickly build an audience, you totally do it there. I actually recommend just doing it inside the ad set, so then that way you aren't breaking your flow. But if you want to create an asset outside of there, if you need to clean up an asset, you go into all tools, audiences, and here's where you can do the same thing here, custom audience, that same screen. You could also do lookalike audience. So if you check an audience that you want, and then you can click actions and then create lookalike. You select the United States as your location, and then you can do show advanced options, and you can create 3 if you want to. Hide advanced, it'll only create 1 custom audience. And you create it, and it's going to take this original source audience, and it's going to create a custom audience a lookalike audience based off of it. Lookalike audience are perfect if you're trying to come up with new audiences that you're not going to use the detailed targeting for, which we recommend using the lookalike audiences over the detailed targeting. The one thing with lookalike audiences, so if you go in here, you kind of look with inside here, when you're creating a custom audience, right, and say you want to create a lookalike audience, you can create it all inside here, right? So we can do it all inside that flow. So just keep that in mind. It just takes a little bit more steps than in here if you've already got it created, and you can just duplicate off of it. So first thing you have to do is create the custom audience, or not custom audience, excuse me. You create the lookalike audience. Then you're going to create a new source from a custom audience, and then you go through the normal window that you've had before. In this case, we might do a Facebook page, right? I don't really actually want to create that. And then it'll automatically populate in here, and then you would then just finish, fill it out the way it is, the way you saw it over here at the same screen. So it is, like I said, it's nice to just do it inside the ad set, but all of those same options are available right inside here if you want to use that. Then the last one is asset library. So this is all the images and things that have ever been used in your ads. It's all saved. It's really nice. So if you want to keep congruency, let's say you've got a really nice picture that you were able to pull from I'm drawing a blank, from like the stock photos that Facebook provides, and you want to use that on the landing page, you just go here into all tools, images, and it'll show all of the ads, all the images that you've ever used, and then you pull up the image that you want to use as your background, right click, open image in new tab, And there it is, a nice high quality full-size image there that you can then use for the landing pages, for the background image on the landing page and things like that. And you are all good to use those. So that is important, especially for landing pages. So a landing page team, if you're looking for background images to keep it all congruent, you know, just they might ask for that. So that's just where, again, you just go in and you can then send them the link. It's a direct link, or you could just save the image and send it to them. And they can use those as background images or some sort of image on the landing page just to keep everything all nice and congruent. Congruency is super important when it comes to online marketing and all that. So I think that pretty much gives you the nitty-gritties, an overview of the nitty-gritties of Power Editor, the Business Manager, buttons to push, what they all do. Things to kind of keep in mind. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me and I will make another video if I have the time. Now I've got to jump off because I've got a phone call here coming up in just a couple minutes, so I've got to get ready for that. And you guys have a fantastic day.